So this is Scott Stosky and Hope Stosky at Megan's Hideaway in St. Thomas on Peterborg Peninsula, which overlooks Megan's Bay to the south and the British Virgin Islands to the north on the northwest part of the island. It's Thursday, about 10 a.m. Eastern time, and so Hurricane Irma has passed. We're going to show you the video of the house, which I'm also taking for insurance purposes. It's pretty devastating. There's no vegetation left on this part of the island, as you can see. These were all lush, forest-like, but there's no vegetation left. You can start seeing parts of the house. This is our electrical panel for our solar. We lost that pretty early in the storm. This is Hope's favorite tree. It's called a Taurus tree. It's obviously mostly gone. This is our main guest house. You can see that there is no longer a roof, no longer railings. That was all covered deck. It is totally gone. As you walk up here on Megan's Hideaway, you can start seeing the damage. This is part of the roof, which came off. This is the Dritchler's rental car. It miraculously, there's no windows left on the back or the side, and the front windshield is busted. A 2x4 went through the back window and out the front windshield, which will show you the hole. You can imagine the speed that 2x4 must have been going to actually completely go through the car and then out the front windshield. Again, that is the front of the guest house. You can see the roof has totally collapsed. The roof is curled up on the side. This is all of the debris. You may be wondering that doesn't look like as much debris as you would think. And that's probably true because we estimate the winds, they stopped being able to clock them at 165. We're guessing that the winds were up to about 200 miles an hour. So there's little debris because it's probably miles and miles away. We also, at the end of the storm, the tail end of it, after the eye had already passed, we're actually about ready to open up. And the house started shaking, and Kevin Dritchler, as a fire chief, looked out the window, and we actually had a tornado that then also came across the street, and that's actually what took off the remaining part of the roof. This is Hope and I's car. You can see that something over the night just peeled off and busted the back window and the side. Again, this is all the vegetation is completely gone. There is no vegetation on this part of the island anymore. There's not a leaf to be found. You couldn't even see the next door neighbors' houses because of the lush vegetation. And obviously that vegetation is completely gone. Scattered throughout the yard, the little debris that is here are our solar panels. Most of them obviously have been ripped off. The air conditioning unit got ripped off. We actually, Kevin Dritchler and I, secured it via a rope. Surprisingly, some of our palm trees did survive. It's incredible how they bend and don't break off. Some of them actually did survive. So I'll try to make my way through some of the debris. You can see that this is all, that used to all be a covered deck that wrapped around with sitting areas on the guest house. That's obviously all gone. This is the remaining part of the roof, solar panels. this is probably the most amazing thing that we've seen. Again, is a 2x4 went from the back windshield, busted it, and went all the way through the front and shot out. Again, can't even imagine the speed that has to drive a 2x4 out of a windshield from the inside. Absolutely amazing. A lot of our storm shutters surprisingly held up very well. The challenge is the wind was driving so much, even under the parts of the roof that still survived, you might be able to see the buckling underneath the paint on the surface of the house. That's water that was driven down through the masonry concrete. So while it doesn't look, it looks like it actually held, what's happened is now there's water down in the masonry and the concrete. So it's all going to have to be torn up. So walking in to the front door here, you can actually see the strength of the storm. These are you can see are industrial sized hinges on very large doors to go into our house. They survived, but you can't close the doors because they're bent. But you can see that they've almost been ripped out. Again, you can see all the water damage that's in between the walls. Our mermaid did survive. She's the patron saint of our house. So now you're starting to look in the courtyard. If you can imagine, there's my lovely wife, Hope. If you can imagine, you can see pictures of the house beforehand. This was all lush vegetation. And as you can see, there is no more vegetation anymore. So as you can see on the top, the roof's all peeled back. Most of the roof is gone. The roof extended all the way out to cover the porch. The porches are gone. Part of the roof is actually now sitting on top of the top porch. The courtyard is more littered with debris because of this rock wall kept some of the debris in. We've been joking around with the Dritchler boys, Tyler and Trey, that we'll give them $5 or $10 for every solar panel that they find.
Like
joking, being that the solar panels are $750 each, and we've had them installed only since January of this year. It was actually wonderful, but was wonderful solar. This is what's remaining of the rock garden. Again, you could not see the neighbor's house, which is the Kims, before this. This was all lush vegetation, a beautiful, beautiful, what we call the rock garden. All that vegetation is gone. You can see that this pole is actually cracked, but all of that vegetation now is gone. It literally, these trees were, 30 feet tall. And again, you could not even see the neighbor's house because of the lush vegetation, and all that vegetation now is gone. So you can see as you approach the backyard, it is absolutely, all the trees are down in the path. The pool is now a dark brown. All of the sand obviously coming up from the storm, or the dirt from the hill, obviously is in the pool. Our lawn furniture we put in the pool, which was smart, to prevent it from blowing away. You can't even see it now because of the darkness of the pool. But again, you can start seeing, really get an idea of the lack, especially if you take and go to meganshideaway.com and see pictures of this courtyard beforehand, and you'll really get an idea of the radical difference that it is. The underside of the house blew out. Haven't gone underneath of it to actually see if there is any damage to the underside of the house. Surprisingly, and I gotta hand it to whoever built and designed this house, is the main house did survive, as well as the roof to what we call the great porch. So we were very happy about that. There is a lot of water damage inside, but the actual roof did survive. But most of the furniture has water damage, but it did survive. The kitchen has the main amount of water damage, while the roof did not come off and did survive. There was probably about 4 inches of water throughout the house, just because of the strength of the wind. Just drove the water underneath the roof and underneath the doors and came through the house. Again, this is the storm damage around, no vegetation. This is our next door neighbor. They are the head oncologist, I believe, at the hospital here in the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas. You were not able to see their house before because of the vegetation. Now, because of the lack of vegetation, you can see their house. Their windows on the northwest side have also been busted out. There's parts of our roof down there. Sadly, it was probably parts of our roof that busted out their windows. All of this vegetation is gone. You could not see, this was as lush as a rainforest, but all of it is actually just been ripped up and is gone now. This is our deck overlooking, that's Hans Lalick Island. That's the down part of St. Thomas. Surprisingly, it's very calm now, and the sea is like this beautiful green, I guess, from being churned up. The master bedroom house, all the gutters are gone. And again, there's pretty extensive water damage inside. But again, the roof did hold, which is good. Probably still needs replaced, because when you go up to the roof, you see that even though it held, the bolts are twisted and pulled out, etc., etc. So while it did its work for this storm, it's not going to hold for another one. Again, you can see the main damage is to the guest house. The guest house is probably a total loss. The damage both inside and external is pretty extensive. This is actually a walkway. You can't probably tell from this video, but this was a walkway. Now it's just covered. These trees have been completely broken off and uprooted. And this is what you have to watch for, is, as you can see, you don't want to step on that. A big bolt coming out. So here